All right, good morning, everybody. Today we are talking about creating a box and whisker plot. So that is another name for box plot. So on today's packet page, your page just says box plots. Okay, that is interchangeable with box and whisker plot. So a box and whisker plot is a type of graph that we use in order to look at our data that we collect. It is a 5-point number summary of the data. So one thing to really make sure that you remember is you have 5 points on your box and whisker plot, okay? And a box and whisker plot is always written out on a number line. So that's another really important thing. You need a number line and your 5-point summary. So what is in this 5-point summary? Well, 2 of them are super easy, the minimum value and the maximum value. Okay, so your minimum obviously is that smallest number in your data set. The maximum value is the biggest number in your data set. Okay, the third is the median in the middle from our song. So this is the middle. When we order it from least to greatest, the median is that middle number, okay? And then after you find the median, we find something called Q1, or the lower quartile, and Q3, which is also called the upper quartile. So Q1 is the middle number from the numbers to the left of the median. Okay, and I'm going to show you what that looks like in just a minute. The upper quartile, or Q3, is the middle number from the numbers to the right of the median. Okay, so it's really important on this that we list our numbers from least to greatest and make sure that we have all of them when we are finding our Q1 and Q3. Okay, I'm going to show you a way for us to remember that we do not include the median when we're finding Q1 and Q3. That's really important for you to remember. Okay, so let's look at this example to kind of wrap our head around what this 5-point number summary is. So luckily for us, our numbers are already written in order from least to greatest. So we've got that down. They're in order from least to greatest. Now I want to get to my median. So I'm going to count and see. Okay, so I have, let's see, let's do it this way. I'm going to underline instead of crossing out so we can still read the numbers. So 1 low, 1 high, 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 all the way until we get to our median, which is 25. So our median is in the middle. We've got 25. Now, what I like to do is I like to circle the median. Okay, so if I circle my median here, and what you could do is put a little whisker around it, because that helps us remember we do not include the median when we're looking for our Q1 and Q3. Our median is all by itself. We've got it circled. It's isolated. Okay, so now if we look, all of this data to the left of the median, this is the lower quartile. That's anything lower than the median. So when we're looking for our Q1, our lower quartile, we want the middle of this section. So if we're crossing off 1 low, 1 high, 1 low, 1 high, we circle, we've got 21 as our lower quartile. So Q1 is 21. Okay, now in order to get quartile 3, or the upper quartile, we look at the upper half of our data. So we're looking again, we're not including the median in this. We cross off 1 low, 1 high, 1 low, 1 high, and that leaves us with 27. So our upper quartile is 27, okay? Now, when we're looking at this, it is obvious what our minimum and our maximum is. When we look, our minimum is going to be our smallest number. Okay, so 16 is our minimum. Our maximum is going to be our biggest number. That's the biggest number in our data set. That is 31. Okay, and we already determined the median. I just had not written it down. It's the highlighted. We've got 25 for our median. Okay, so when we go to draw a box and whisker plot, this is our 5-point summary. Okay. Okay, so now that we've gotten our 5-point summary of our data, we know the smallest, the highest, the median, and then also our Q1 and Q3. We can look now at our number line in order to create our box and whiskers plot. So it says draw a number line that will include all of the numbers in your 5-number summary. Luckily for us, it's already drawn. Draw a box using Q1, median, and Q3 numbers. Okay, so let's just stop there real quick and look at what that looks like. We want to use our Q1, median, and Q3. So let's scroll back up. Our Q1 was 21. So right at 21, I'm going to put a dot. Drawing with my finger here, so it's a little bit hard. Okay, so I've got a dot at 21. Our median was 25, so I'm going to put a dot at about 25. Okay. And then our Q3 was 27, so I'm actually just going to make this thicker, and I'm going to put a dot at 27, which is right up here. And I'm going to go fix this dot and this dot. Okay, so I've got my 3 points there. Okay, now when I'm looking, it says draw a box. So what that means is that I'm really going to take my data and I'm going to draw a box around it. So it looks like this. The edges of my box go through my point, and then I can just draw a line through this middle point, the median. So there I've got my box, okay? Now it says to draw your whiskers at the minimum and the maximum number, okay? So my minimum was 16, and my maximum was 31. So I've got a point at 16, and I'm going to go up from 31. I've got a point at 31, okay? And now it says that I can then connect my whiskers and box. So in order to do that, all I would need to do is draw a line from my whisker to my box. And that is how we create a box and whiskers plot. So this shows us 5 numbers that we need to know about our data. If I wanted to label this to remind myself what each one of these dots truly means, I could. This would be my minimum. This would be my max. Okay. Right here is Q1. That's Q1. Okay, and then over here, I have Q3. And then my very last point here in the middle, well, we know the median is always in the middle. So if I wanted to label my box and whiskers, this is how I would label it. Now you're going to see box and whiskers on your test, and they're not going to be labeled. You're going to have to know that which point is which, that the biggest point is that maximum, the smallest point is that minimum, and then we have our median, our Q1 and Q3. Now, something important that I want to show you about your box and whiskers plot that it also tells you in the packet notes is that there are 4 sections to your box and whiskers plot. Does everybody see that? That we have, if we're looking here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. Okay, so when we're looking at this, what's important to know is that anytime we divide something by 4, kind of like a dollar, there are 4 quarters in a dollar, and each quarter is equal to 25 cents. So that means each of these sections is equal to 25% of my data. Okay, so what's really important to know is that this lower part between the minimum and the quartile 1, this is the first quarter of my graph, the first 25% of my graph. Now, when I move to the second quartile, so between quartile 1 and the median, this now takes me to another 25% of my graph. Okay, it's really important to know that each of these sections is worth 25%. And that makes sense because when you look at the graph, we know that the median is in the middle. That's something that we have talked about multiple times. And the median, that means halfway, right? So if you're halfway to 100%, you are at 50%. Okay, so that being said, when you're looking here, if you have a question that actually we're going to answer some questions and it's going to tell us, it says, what percent of the data falls in the box? So that means just inside the box, what percentage of our data is here? Well, if we look, we have 2 sections that make up the box. We know that each section of our box plot is 25%. So 2 sections of 25 would give us 50%. So what percent of data falls in the box? 50% of the data falls in the box because the box is made up of 2 sections, each one being 25% of the data. Okay? So that's how we would explain that. Okay, the box has 2 sections in it. Each one is 25%, so that total box is 25%. And it says what percent of the data falls between quartile 1 and the minimum. So if we're looking here, we have the minimum and we have quartile 1. So that gives us 25% of the data. So to answer that, we would just say 25% of the data. Okay. And then our last question here is it says, what is the interquartile range? Now, this is something that you can easily get from a box and whisker plot. And this is something that we are going to talk about a little bit more tomorrow on your notes and on your practice. So that is something that we're going to look forward to. So the interquartile range. Well, we know the word range means what is the difference? The big minus the small. So the interquartile range, all that is asking for is what is the range from quartile 3 to quartile 1. So what we would do is we take our quartile 3, which is 27, and we would subtract our quartile 1, which in our case right now is 21, and we would get 6. So my interquartile range, or sometimes you'll see this written as IQR. I'm sorry, that was my dog barking at something, but you'll see interquartile range written as IQR, interquartile range. So that just tells us the middle part of our data. That means the middle 50% of our data ranges 6 points, okay? All right, that's it for box and whiskers plots. You guys have extra practice on your packet, and we will be continuing to create and read box and whisker plots for the rest of this unit so that you guys get a little bit more comfortable with the 5-point summary and what it means.